What's going on, guys? It's Doss. Welcome back to another real world vehicle ownership review. Undoubtedly the most important one of them all because it involves this. In the sheet metal, my very first car. And I'm going to be talking about 9 years of ownership. Simple as that. September 11th, 2015 was the official date this truck was adopted into the family. I say it that way because none of this would be possible if it wasn't for a very important someone, and that someone is my mother. Mom, thank you once again. I love you. You know how much this truck means to me. Obviously, we're sitting here 9 years later. Late 2015 was like first semester, freshman year, or like junior high, something like that. So I obviously wasn't working. I had zero, but my mom knew the extreme amount of passion and support and love I had for the Blue Oval. Quick little backstory. So my dad has owned since new a 1997 Ford F-150 Lariat. I grew up in that truck. I grew up in that passenger seat. I grew up in that back seat. I grew up in the bed of that truck watching the fireworks. That truck was literally a rolling four-wheeled icon, and it's still running today strong. I know in that video I kind of messed up where I said it's his daily driver. It's his primary driver, but he doesn't drive it every day. Anyways, that truck is the reason why I am Ford for life no matter what. I've even had some friends criticize me like, oh, you drive a Dodge or whatever, and this and that, you drive a Kia, but this was always the first. Intentionally bought this to be my primary source of transportation. Even though I was 15 and I was way too young to even really start, dealing with the permit or the license or whatever. And so there's a reason why this, my first car, is a Ford Ranger. I'll get to the full description in a second, but that's basically long story short as to why and to how. So since I already mentioned the Blue Oval, might as well give the full description of this. This is a 2004, built in October 2003, sold for the 2004 model year Ford Ranger Edge, two-wheel drive, because from where we're from, we don't need all that extra crap that's gonna break eventually anyway. Two-door, I know it looks like an extended cab. It is. It does have the really cool folded seats on the side where you're sitting sideways, but it's a two-door, which is great. Less maintenance for me. But also, another backstory on this truck, the reason why this truck still looks so great. So, due to my only and older siblings' living situations, especially at the time when we got this truck, move in and out of the state, so I was able to use their car they'd leave behind as my primary. So this was always in the garage. I was always fortunate enough to keep this truck as basically a secondary. Now it's not even that. It's really just like a little model car, I'm gonna put in the Doss Museum one day. It wasn't until maybe late 2017 when my mom finally let me start driving on my own. So almost 2 full years later, the percentage of this truck being washed is more than the actual usage on the road. And since I'm talking about the usage on the road, back in 2015, this truck was 12 years old. We got it at 82,000 miles. Right now, as it sits, it's about 103, almost like 104,000 miles. So about 22,000 miles in 9 years. Me personally, I think any type of miles I put on any of my vehicles is too much, but I think that's pretty decent. Hence to why you've always seen it in the background of my commercials or TikToks or whatever. It's because this thing really means that much to me. In fact, I've been working on this video. This is actually like the third shoot in the week. I came out here again to do this again, make sure all this was perfect enough for me to upload this, because that's just how much this truck means to me. But anyway, let me slow down the talking and let's get to the good stuff. All right, so those of you who are watching this as a buyer's guide, well, you're in luck because we're getting right into it. Have I had any problems with this 2004 Ford Ranger 3.0 liter V6? This is the third engine choice, at least back at the time. You had the 2.3, the 3.0, and then a bigger V6, the 4.0. And yes, I have. Like I already mentioned, this truck was pretty much always a secondary, even though it was bought to be a primary source of transportation for me. But the one extended period of time that I had with this truck, I had to use it for about 2 weeks. And it didn't look too pretty, but we'll go ahead and explain that now. Obviously, I was working and going to school maybe 8 miles a day or whatever. So one morning, the previous day, it was fine. Next morning, I drove it to school about 2 miles, parked for about 8 hours, obviously came back, and I started the engine and it was fine. But as soon as I put my foot on the gas, it literally felt like the engine and the transmission both were spinning in circles inside this thing. The misfire was it was a huge misfire. It took me about 2 weeks and $1,400. When I first took it to Firestone and told them the problem, they replaced the spark plugs and the spark plug wires. Turns out it was still misfiring, obviously, and it turns out they put a cracked spark plug right down here in whatever the cylinder this is. So I took it back, and of course it was under warranty. Took it back not even like 2 days later, and then bam, they put another spark plug in there. Problem still wasn't fixed. So I took it to Goodyear because I just do not like Firestone. Shout out to them. And they went ahead and replaced the coil right over there. As you can see where all the spark plug wires are connected to it, that was replaced. And then eventually the problem went away. 92,000 miles on it at the time. So that was like, what, maybe 5 years ago. But anyways, that was the only problem as far as the engine bay. Everything else has been preventative maintenance. And obviously oil changes at least every 8 to 9 months at least, because this thing sits so much. I flushed this out probably like maybe 4 years ago. Battery, I constantly go through batteries because this is a early 2000s Ford, and what that means is that for some reason the electronics get a little squirrely, especially as they age. So I'll explain more about things that I had to replace because of that issue in a second. Oil is gold. This is nice and clear for the brake fluid, and then you got the nice bright red power steering pump, which of course does have the nice famous Ford whine. Of course, it's not as bad, obviously, only 103,000 miles, but you can definitely hear it, especially if it's been running for a while. Of course, AC blows freezing cold. Never had to do anything with that. Although I did replace the alternator by myself. That was just preventative maintenance. I worked at a Ford dealership, and I was just feeling like I could do a DUI myself, even though I didn't record any of it. And yeah, that's new as well. I believe there's a filter somewhere in here, right over there. That was replaced, preventative maintenance. But other than the giant misfire problem, that's the only problem that I've had inside the engine bay. Other than that, this truck's been great. Yes, I still do have to pull out the stats every now and then, even though I had this thing for 9 years. 148 horsepower and 185 pound-feet of torque. Of course, this thing has been washed more than it's been driven. So underneath here and stuff like that, it's all nice and clean. You can basically eat off of it. Well, I wouldn't right now because it's nice and dusty from sitting in the garage, of course, but that's enough of the engine bay. How about well, actually, no, it's not. I've had to replace more parts than I just mentioned, but like I was talking about with the electronics in the early 2000s Fords, this probably has something to do with it. Now, I previously brought this truck from my home state, Texas. It sat over there for about a year because I didn't know what I was going to do. I was confused about life, still am. Went back and then road tripped, yeah, right, 800 plus miles. Drove this thing with all its nice brand new rock chips because of that up north, so I can keep a closer eye on it, right? And as it was sitting for that year, the electronics started to deteriorate. So I had to, back in that year, I probably went back maybe like twice, and I had to replace the starter basically every time I went back just to turn this thing on. Previously, when I drove it up here, I just replaced, I called a mobile mechanic because I didn't have time and, you know, the tools, whipped that gas tank off, and he replaced the fuel pump. Stuff really does deteriorate, which is the reason why I drove it 800 miles. My younger self probably would slap the hell out of me for doing that. All right, so let's move on to the front since we're kind of close in that area anyway. So let's talk about what's new. Both headlight assemblies, in fact, all the way around, are new, as I will explain in a second. I was going to keep the original light assemblies for that sentimental value, but they were broke sometime during the storage in the garage somewhere, so I no longer have those. Well, they cracked. Clear headlight assembly, obviously the clear corner light, the original was orange, and then I have my switchback right here. This just stays as a running light, or it switches into the bright amber turn signal, and then bam, you got your high beam, low beam right here, and then you got your side marker light right here, which is now an LED. So this is all new, and as you can see, yes, I had to install a resistor. If the camera can see it, I'll probably have to point it over there in a second. I installed this orange resistor right here to make sure all the lights work all nice and smoothly. I can't even really keep up with all the nice, beautiful rock chips, except for some of this side scraping right here from trash cans and stuff like that. LED, this one's kind of loose actually. Oops. I have to deal with that later, but these are LED fog lights, of course. This is a new bug deflector. This truck 9 years ago did come with one, but I broke it because one time after I finished washing it, of course, you know, as I wash it more than I drive it, put it back in the garage, and there was this bug that tried to fly by, and I snapped the towel, and it broke the side on that side over there. Probably like broke half of this part of the deflector off. So this is a new deflector. That was probably like 4 years ago. Other than that, though, I took the license plate bracket off because I don't deal with front license plates, and then everything else is about it. There's nothing else. Also, since I'm talking about problems that I've had with this truck, since I've already mentioned the giant misfire problem, other than that, also would have to do with the brakes. So this truck has basically the same setup as my Taurus did. I used to have a Taurus with this exact same setup, also motor. These are drums in the rear and then disc in the front. So what happened with these is the shoes just got so worn where the cylinder that pushes them out up against the brake to stop the vehicle, obviously, it started leaking because it just separated too much when the shoes just wore out, and then all kinds of fluid just started leaking out all up and through. I forgot what side. I think it was this side. I'm not sure. But it started leaking, and then of course I took it to Firestone before I realized how terrible the customer service was, and they charged me about $600 to go ahead and do the whole way around, because apparently the whole way, this is at the time when I didn't know too much. These brakes probably have like, I don't know, maybe 3,000-4,000 miles. That was like 6 years ago, something like that. I don't remember the exact dates and the exact times. I don't know if these are factory, but we do have these running boards since day one. Bed cover. This is probably not factory, just based on the way this plastic comes over this edge lettering right here, which is factory. This tint has been here, except for this tint. This is actually a little darker. I think it's 15. The previous tires were BF Goodrich KOs that BF Goodrich discontinued a while back. And I was actually looking for the same thing, if not better, which would be the KO2s that BF Goodrich now makes. That set would have probably cost me around like $1,700. So I went with these cheap, brand new, hole-in-the-wall Chinese style tires, which don't have the white lettering as the BF Goodrich did, which I would like. But since these tires are probably going to dry rot as well, might as well just put something that looks good, and the tread is just crazy on these things. No need to ball all out, even when I know it's just gonna be sitting around. Chrome exhaust tip right here, it's been here since. Really nice. I've been thinking about doing something with the exhaust, but nah, of course, this is sentimentalness, so the less I do, probably the better. These side shades right here, these are new. There were already some here when I bought the truck, but they broke. I forgot how they did, or maybe they just kind of like fell off with a little seal in there. So these are new. These actually look a little worse than the previous ones because they came out a little bit more, looked a lot better. New wipers as well, since I just looked at those, but it's not really something I just need to point out in a video like this. This is usually the party area of the pickup trucks. At least this is where a lot of awesome things go down. Anyways, so as you can see, these are the taillights. Obviously the look I was going for. These are, of course, like I already mentioned, these are LED. These are not the factory ones. They kind of smoked barbecue sauce, and then you got the, I think there's like 18 LEDs in there with the reflectors right here at the bottom. It looks like the factory, but it's refined. And then you have, of course, an LED bulb that I had to buy separately. The actual handle did break a while back. I was trying to open it and it just broke. It's just plastic after all, so I just went ahead and bought another one. I don't even know how much it was, like 20 bucks at the time. I think it was like 7 years ago or something like that, and it broke. I was pissed. You have to take the inside of the tailgate out to replace it, but other than that, that's about it. Nice little souvenir right here. This is one of the, besides the AutoZone floor mats and steering wheel cover on the inside, this is probably one of the first upgrades I did to this truck right here. Shout out to my dad. He bought this for me right here. Of course, there is a hitch receiver that was already there when I bought the truck. And of course, these LED plate lights right here I bought those after as well to, of course, match the rest of the LED. And then, yeah, that's about it right here. So we'll go ahead and slide into the rear. Slide into the tailgate. Now there's usually a lot more rubber bungee cords back here, but I'm storing things in here while it's in the garage right now at the moment because I don't know, I just don't have the time to organize or whatever the case is. Anyways, so you can see a little bit of brown back there if the camera can pick that up. What that's from is, well, when I mentioned the truck was sitting for a year back in Texas while I was up here, there was some of those poles, like the poles that you use to slide right here, that you anchor them down for your cargo or whatever. Those came with the truck, but they were so rusted. They look like they've been at the bottom of the ocean for the past like 20 years or whatever. So I had to throw them away. They're gone. And that's where that rust is from. Probably a couple other old car parts back here as well while it was sitting for a year. And yeah, so that's where that brown is from, in case you were wondering. Look at this. You haven't seen this in a while, huh? This is drop-in bed liner. When's the last time you seen that? This has been here. Hasn't gone anywhere. This is nice old school drop-in. Now you see like either a mat or spray in, but drop-in bed liner, that's some old school stuff right there. The rear third brake light right there, which doesn't match the rest of the lights at all. I was looking for a smoked barbecue sauce color, but that was the one that I decided to go with. So eventually I probably will do something with that at some point. Truck bed is always a fun place to be at, you know. As far as anything I've carried back here, maybe the heaviest would either be a 450cc Honda dirt bike or a laundry set, brand new washer and dryer from Lowe's that I picked up for one of my friends back at the time. So that's about it. That's all really it's been back here. You know, as far as like actually doing some serious work, never towed anything with this thing. Don't need to, probably won't ever, because why? What's the point? But yeah, just washer and dryer set probably was heavier than the dirt bike, and it did fine. I just put it in overdrive just in case, you know. I've only hand washed this truck since I've had it, polished the crap out of it, waxed the crap out of it, but a lot of these blemishes and dents and scratches and dings and all that stuff are just from other careless individuals. The majority of these dings and scratches will be fixed, but some are actually sentimental and they will stay because I know which ones they are, obviously. There you go right there. This is how these pop off. The memories. No, I'm just kidding. Let's talk about what's different. The headliner used to be gray, but now it's black. That was replaced at some point back in 2018. I remember that because of the job I was working at. Floor mats, like I mentioned, one of the very first upgrades. They still look nice and new and pretty. The steering wheel is somewhat yellow now. Obviously the factory radio out of the cassette tape. You do have the CD player, of course. I still have CD players that I listen to reminisce about. There's also a little contraption down here that I figured out one day. This is a thermometer for some reason. Once you put your hand on this little piece right here, it actually, the numbers go up. Some type of thing that measures heat or whatever the case is. How this thing performs on the road, because I will not drive it in this video. Who really cares about that? Who's even still watching at this point, right? But the ride quality feels like you're riding on literal bricks for what this looks like, and the tires are so big and everything. You would think that it rides pretty decent, but this rides like a literal go-kart on the pavement road and anywhere else, obviously. I just love this vinyl flooring, man. I wish so many other cars offered this, right? This would be so cool, different colors and everything, but this is so easy to clean, and it's just, I just love this vinyl flooring in any car right here. And I started getting these notices in the mail on an airbag recall, and I kept getting them for about 2 weeks. I would ignore them, and then eventually an actual Ford technician, at least they looked legit, I thought it was a scam, came out and was like, hey, can we go ahead and deal with this? And I'm just like, what? I've never seen this type of dedication on like a free service of like, what? This is what? Really? I'm like, you know, go ahead, fine. So I watched him the whole time, and he did what he did, right? It was official. It seemed to be legit and everything, but this little dip is still in this soft part, which just bothers the hell out of me. So I'll probably try to fix it myself. Hopefully I don't get blown in the face by an airbag. I know nobody really cares about cars like that. This is on a different level right here. I know the average person goes through a car maybe 2 or 3 years in another car, you know, but this is like a different situation right here. This is a different level. So that wraps up basically the quickest, most thorough review I can give you guys of my very first car in the sheet metal. Shout out to Terrell for giving me this Ford emblem right here. You can tell it's off of a newer Ford because it's got the camera hole. And then shout out to Bucky right here. They recently just built the largest Bucky gas station in the country, in the nation, or whatever, just about maybe 20 miles from where I am at right now. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for tuning in. This is dedication right here. Hopefully I wasn't too weird as far as the way I talk and things like that, but I do this because I'm dedicated and I want to. And like I keep saying 100 million times, probably the 89th time I've said this. This channel exists for the memories, to reminisce, because tomorrow is not promised. And I'll probably get into more of my actual bio on this channel in another video. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed a look at my very first car. It's not going anywhere. Guys, stay tuned. I'll probably make some more videos with this truck because all it does is sit, and I worry a lot about it. The fluids are starting to deteriorate. I do not want to touch this myself and mess it up, but I will not be taking it to Firestone. You guys stay tuned. Thanks for watching. That's it.